Other counties may boast of their rich lands, where the fat cattle roam at their will. But give me a home in old Breffni, at the foot of a wind-covered hill, there to smell the sweet scent of the heather, and to hear the lone curlew call, the rose tapping light on the casement, and God's blessed peace over all.
I never thought we'd be on Zoom.
Big changes.
This is all new to me,
Well, now it's
when I was growing up, there was nothing.
well, you're not doing too badly.
There was no televisions, or there was no. We hadn't even the ASB.
'Tis there that my thoughts ever linger, no matter wherever I roam. I ask not for fame nor for fortune, just give me my own Leitrim home.
A penny for a cotton ball, a halfpenny for a needle. That's the way the money goes. Cotton was the weasel. Every night when I go out, the whistle is on the table. Get the stick and rack 'em up, and pop goes the weasel.
I was an only child and I had nobody, no children to play with. I had a lovely sheepdog that kept me occupied. I suppose like cats, and there was a field outside the house, and in the summertime we played out in the field, and in the hay shed maybe sometimes in the winter time. I remember coming home from school sometime or another. I went to school in Drumsna until I was about 8 or something like that. I remember coming home from school when I was about 6 or something, and this car pulled up beside me. At the time, there was only 2 cars around here. The priest had a car and Jimmy Daly had a car. And Jimmy Daly came up the Bog Road and picked me up to brought me home. And I thought that was a wonder. That was great altogether. And at that time, you could only get an adult's bicycle. But Huey Gookie, and God be good to him, he fixed the seat on an iron bar with a bend on it, and the bend went down to where an ordinary saddle is now. Across, and the seat was lower down, was 3 or 4 inches lower down than what it would be for Daddy or Mammy. And I cycled over to Jamestown with my aunt and back again.
And to come to Drumsna to get the battery charged to get to hear the news. And then I had to carry it home, and I had to hold it out because there was acid in the bottle, and it would cut the legs here. It was an awful ordeal to get the news. But we managed. We were very happy at all. And now they have everything. The change that has come in the world is it's great. We never had a holiday. Daddy never had a holiday. He came and he hadn't the money to go back to America.
Well, I was born in England in 1943, and like Patricia, I didn't have any brothers or sisters either. And the war was on, and when I was 2.5, it was over. So we got to come to Ireland on our holidays. And I had 2 grandparents in Leitrim and 1 grandfather in Cork. My other grandmother was dead. So we came on our holidays, and we were going to go to Leitrim for a week and go to Cork for a week. But it nearly took a week in travelling out of the whole thing because the trains were so slow and we had to come by boat. and they had to stop the train coming from Dublin to put turf in it. Now, I didn't know what turf was, but turf had to be put into the train to get it along the track. And we eventually got to Leitrim, and I met my grandparents. And I had a lovely childhood. I mean, I had everything I want. The only thing I didn't have was brothers and sisters, but it didn't really matter, because on the street where I lived, in Key Street in Drumsna alone, there were 7 McManuses, 5 Reeds, 6 Murrays, 8 Garveys, and 10 or 11 McLaughlins. So there was always somebody. If you went out the door, there was always somebody to play with.
And sure, we had no sense at all, and you run around the school, and we had usual games as well. And the ring a rosy, that was going round in rings too, pocket full of posy, tissue, we all fall down. And then the skipping, the skipping rope and the ball up against the gable of the school, kicking or hitting the ball up, and giving the little ones and baby infants piggybacks around the school as well, and put them up on the wall and put them on your back and run around the school with them. Just used to go on as well.
Up, horsey, up again. How many miles to Dublin? 10. Will I be there by candlelight? Yes, sir, I will. Up, little horsey, up again. That was one of them.
Good. So I had this wonderful game that we used to play at school in England, and it was the Grand Old Duke of York. And you had all the kids marched up the hill, and then they went up in the middle. When he was halfway up, he was neither up nor down. So we were, but anyway, Master Dowd came out and he said, "There'll be no Dukes of York here." It was at a time, I suppose, when Ireland was only after becoming a republic a couple of years before. He said, "There'll be no grand old Dukes of York here." He said, "You'll play something else, Miss McCarthy." So we did, we played loads. We had this crazy game that any wet day, we called it trudging. We went round and round in a circle, one after another, making a big mucky track in the middle of the schoolyard. And we had lots of fun. We played tig, and we played double tig, where 2 people had to run after, and we played blind man's buff. And we played Pop Goes the Weasel and all sorts of other games, and we were really happy.
We used to have lots of fun ourselves at the hay and at the oat, But it was always work, it seemed to be. And you had to bring home the cows in the evening and mix them all, see, because mother was sending meat to the creamery,
The postman and the travelling van, now, that was McCormick's or Plunkett's from Ballinamore, I think. You used to go by our house, and you would get an odd time you could get a plain loaf, and I used to tell them, "Oh, it was so soft." When you were walking up from the van up to the house, you'd be nipping lumps out of the loaf, you see, before you even get into the kitchen. But
no dances, no televisions. We made our own fun, hurling a football and making hurdles and cutting them in the ditches. And we were often chased by the donor of the timber. There was no such thing as going to the shop and buying it. There was no money. There was 12 of us in the family. And there wasn't too much loose at that stage. Mostly, it was mostly work the whole time.
And we'd have to light the candle at night, and we'd have to put it out to save it. So for the next night. So that was, during the war years, it was tough. But it was good. We did, when there was no light, you just went to bed.
That's it.
But there was no, you never worried about it, it was part of life.
Did you ever bring potato cake or box tea to the school? Tucked underneath your oxter with your book, your slate and rule. And when teacher wasn't looking, sure a great big bite you take of the creamy flavoured, buttered, soft and sweet potato cake. Ah, you did, so did she, and so did I. And the more I think about it, sure, the nearer I'm to cry. Ah, weren't they the happy days when troubles we knew not, and her mother's made cocooning in the little skillet pot.
The most thing I remember about Drumsna School when I went there was the toilets. They were outside. And there were two. There was a girls on one side and a boy, and there was a wall between, but it didn't go right up to the ceiling. So the boys could stand up on the whatever they were standing on and look down. And I never looked into the hole in the toilet because I don't know what was lurking down there. It was awful. And
there was 90 pupils in it at one stage in the two-room school, and they were out in the hall on both sides where the clothes hung up. Because the rooms were, you know yourself, they weren't that big.
Okay.
And there was another crowd, and then you get up and they stand around the wall and have the lessons with the teacher, and the other crowd sit down. And that was in rotation the whole way, along the whole day. At one stage, there was a big crowd going.
School? No, I went to Kilnagross School.
Oh, Kilnagross, okay.
Kilnagross, yes. And I walked across, we had to go through a turf bog to get to school. And we went in a long lane that they used to bring out the turf on. So there was a little pass, a short pass, and we got out on the top of on a Hosna hill and down to the school. And
up to, I suppose, about 8 years of age, I went to school in Drumsna. I don't remember terribly much. I had a Mrs. Masson. She was an oldish woman. She retired around the time I was 8, and she had some Irish. She was grand. She must have only learned Irish in her late days, so she was great that she had that much Irish kind of thing. I went over to Jamestown and see after that, and she was talking about the first day I was at school. I must have gone around Easter time or something. She was talking about Board Moshicon, Board Neocon, Almore, and it was pure Greek to me. That was the furniture in the bedroom. And it was Board Moshicon, the dressing table, Board Neocon, a washstand, Almore.
Oh, to Capitagle.
Yeah, did you go to school in Capitagle?
Yeah. It wasn't too far.
Okay.
We used to go across the fields. And,
okay. Did you wear the hobnail boots?
Our bare feet. There were no hobnail boots. Years above me, they used to bring the salad turf. But I don't remember that. We brought the pony load of turf. And we'd have to bring it in our arms and put it into the turf shed.
Our house was beside the school at home, so we just had to go across the bridge and we were there. So anything, as I said, that was wanted, let it be a bit of sugar or tea or anything, to be back to our house for it. So Colleen and her primary cert and all, I did that as well. Yeah, in the Drumshanbo, you'd have to go in and sit that exam in the big school in Drumshanbo. And it was very important that time because there was no much leaving cert or any of those exams then,
I went to Kiltar School and across the fields every morning, of course, down the road. And there were 5 of us, myself and the other 4, my sisters and brothers, and went there. There were 2 rooms in the school. Miss Katie was in the first infant class, and 3 other infants and first and second. And she taught us, and it was all mostly Irish. She'd English, but she was an Irish speaker, and she was from Cork. But by Gary, we had to learn.
There was writing, all right, and maths was number 1.
Irish?
And there was Irish, but I hated the living side of it.
So then there was the religious examiner. He would be out, and that was Father McHale. He would arrive out around the September. And then there was certs for that as well. There was a full cert and a half cert.
Yeah, I have. This is the long catechism we learned, and this is an Irish book from the day, and an English book.
Irish, English, Slor, Turas na Hearn, Laura, what everything, and there's more Irish there, and we the Laura, that's the our sums was all in Irish, and Storr na Hearn, of course, that was history, and Turas na Hearn was all geography, all Irish.
But sewing was a serious job, and we had to have this cloth with hemming and running felt seam, all this stuff. And it was always on a white piece of material that was absolutely black by the time. It had to be left for the inspector to look at it, the sewing inspector. And it was between bits of blood and dirty hands and everything. But we got through it.
And indeed, as Colleen was saying too, with the sewing, oh, I remember that. And I didn't like sewing at all, but it was, you know, you had to do it. And all then it would be tested, or they examined your sewing book at the end of the day, and then the knitting was part of it as well. You either knit a jumper or knit something else, or you'd have to do all this turn of the sock and plain and purl and all them different stitches as well. But more than Colleen, now mine wasn't too clean by the time it was finished with. I hated it.
We had to go for the bowl of water to the well, which was about 500 yards away, and there'd be 2 cents for it. And they carried the bucket of water, and there'd be a cup there in the hall for anyone that wanted to drink. We had to carry it in one side of the bucket and bring it up.
Okay.
And we often spilled it out, and where we could go again.
I'm sure.
Then some days for the fires, you see, there was the turf brought and all, which was open fires, and then they got stoves in. You used to heat the bottles of milk and that around the open fires, but they got the black stoves in then, so they were more modern. But we'd still, few of us would get off to gather the sticks. So that would go off up the back lane, you see, and on round by the river, gathering the sticks, which that meant we had an extra hour off school. So we were doing very well with the sticks.
The street, when you went by the church door there in Jamestown now, there were stones there, and there was plenty of weeds growing in between them. And once in a while, a crowd of us were sent out to pull in weeds. So we learned how to weed, and we're back at that stage too.
Then the lunch, as I said before, I think we had to go home for our lunch. You see, we were so near the school. Whereas I used to be jealous nearly the ones that could stay there and play, just get the lunch down and keep playing. So I'd be in a rush back to be playing around the school.
We didn't have any much entertainment, you know, or when we go out at lunchtime, there was nothing to do much. Just eat your lunch and sit down, and that was it. There was nothing to do at lunchtime. But we got by. We were used to that kind of life in them days. There wasn't much to choose from, you know.
Where Leitrim waters flow.
I remember in Jamestown, you went in by the church door, and at the gable end of the church, you went through a gate into the yard, the schoolyard, and the schoolyard was all lined with stones. And when we went out to play, we weren't allowed to run around about in case we'd fall and get hurted. We had to walk around in twos. We walked right round about the yard in twos, talking Irish or reading a book. We weren't allowed to play in case we'd fall.
We had lunch, and our lunch consisted of a bit of bread and butter wrapped up in a paper, and a bottle of milk. And we're very glad to have that. And that's what we brought to school every day. Maybe then in the good weather, we might get the pleasure of a bottle of water, which we got in a well belonging to Frank Fornan on the way down to school, and filled our bottle and brought it off.
What was our lunch like?
Typical lunch, yeah.
Bread and butter.
Bread and butter.
Bread and butter. And they were lucky if you had jam. There might be black currant jam from the made homemade, and that it was during the war years, you know, and there was no plentiness when we were in them years. We didn't have, you know, the quality of life that's now. There's everything. They have a great time.
And Lynch's shop was right beside the school. And if we had a penny at all, and we saw the bread man out there, and get those toasty buns, there were curtains in them, and we'd go up to poor Bernie, he was McCabe from Ballinamore, and he might give us 2 buns for 1 big penny.
I remember one day she got us out, we weren't too good at history, she got us out in a semicircle in front of her, and she asked some question in history, and the first person didn't know it, so passed ahead, second person, the third person, the fourth person. I'd say by the time she got to the 7th person, the temper was rising, and she got out the rod. And I think when she got a few more, somebody over about the 12th or 13th person kind of thing collapsed, fainted. So that finished the history.
And then the singing, she had this tuning fork and she used to crack the table with it. And I was never a singer. And I was in a class with a whole heap of O'Dowds who could sing and knew every note from do to do again. And I was usually asked to leave at some stage, go out in the hall, Miss McCarthy, because you can't really sing. And she dented my morale a lot. I wasn't that bad, but she did. But I remember the first tune was The Dawning of the Day, and it's in my head forever. And I'm not going to sing it for you, but I'm sure you've all learned it. We did.
Of course, we had a singing class.
Yeah.
Twice a week we went to our singing class, and Mrs. Flynn was the teacher.
I think we didn't do much tuning fork or anything in the infants' room like that, but it was ones that we'd have us out at the blackboard and the tuning fork as well, and the do-re-mis and the whole scale and all that. So I had done the toast like before that, you know, just as I was saying, my first communion dress, and that was at 7 years of age. You didn't get style then. So the Rosa Farn Moore now was that memory that I think was the first song I ever sang. So if you want, I'll sing a verse of it and, you know, just an example of it. My thoughts today, though I'm far away, dwell on Tyrconnell's shore.
The salt air and the collions fair around lovely green Glenore.
There's a flower there beyond compare that I'll treasure evermore.
And grand collion, oh, crown of grain, she's the rose of Arnmore. I can't think of any more.
That was the first song I ever sang at the toast a lot. Then if I'd win or that, when we'd come back, we'd have to sing the song in front of the class. That and the boys to count your ma was another one.
Around the 15th of August one year, there was some celebration. I can't even remember what was this. I know there's a plaque on the wall of the arch in Jamestown still, and I wasn't over there lately to look to see what was it all about. Was there Shakespeare or something like that again? And we learned a whole lot of songs that time for that, and there was a big celebration around. So it was around the 15th of August, and half the country was in Jamestown for that, and some of the children were on horseback. There was adults in the play as well, but in school we learned a whole lot of songs that we sang at that.
Oh no. We'll leave it out.
Yeah, leave it out, exactly. All right, we're going to do a Tell Me Ma.
Tell me ma.
Okay. I'll tell me ma when I go home, the boys won't leave the girls alone. They pull my hair and stole my comb, that's all right till I go.
I left in the summer holidays, and I'd be 14 in August.
Mm-hmm.
So I never went back after that.
Yeah.
I went working with the council.
Yes.
Ave Maria.
Communion and all that. That was very simple years ago. I had my new communion dress. That was the big excitement for me, of course, because the other ones must have been handed down or something. But, you know, it was such a memory and such excitement. But there was no such thing. And then we still have photographs from it because John Keeney, he was the photographer in Carrick. So that was only coming into being then. And he arrived in Drumshanbo with the camera to take photos. And he went around all the schools seemingly for communion. And I think he did confirmation as well. But like a silly looking photograph, but it's still lovely to have.
Old and something new and something borrowed and something blue. I did all of those things, and the father of the bride always paid for the meal, and we got married as a concession at 10 o'clock in the morning. Mass was at 9:30 in Drumsna, so we had to coax Father Flynn because the Guckians had cattle they had milk and stuff like that, so we had to coax him to put it back for half an hour, and we got married at 10:30, which was quite late for those days. And then we went to the County Hotel in Carrick, and we were all home, I'd say, at 7 o'clock, and we went off on our honeymoon. We toured Ireland, and like Antoinette said, I had a going away outfit, and my bridesmaids came up and got me into the going away outfit, big deal, and a hat. I had to have a hat with the going away outfit, and everybody came to the door of the hotel and saw us off, and there was a car with the car had cans all tied to the back of it.
Well, for my wedding day, I went to the hotel for my reception. I went to Gowell to get married, and then we went on to the hotel for the afternoon, and that was it. Yeah.
And did you go on a honeymoon?
Oh God, yeah. We went to Donegal, I think it was. I had a sister-in-law living up it, and we went up to her and spent a while there and had to drive around. We're away for about 10 days. I came back then and started work.
When we came back up our honeymoon, my mother-in-law was having the station a few weeks afterwards, and she said it would be a good chance to show off the new bride if I would go out to the station. And I was quite shy then, and she said, come out and stay the night before, and then all the neighbours can have a look at you. And I said, what will I wear? And she said, wear your going away outfit. So I said, okay, hat and all, because we wore hats to mass. All the women wore hats, always wore a hat to mass in those days. So we went out to Mihall's place, which was in Lisnagay between Drumsna and Kilnagross, and I brought the going away outfit, hat and the whole lot. And at that stage, about all I could do was boil an egg. But luckily enough, that's all they were having was boiled eggs. So I got the job. We got up early that morning. The table had to be set to perfection. The priest was to be at the top. My father-in-law was at the bottom, and there was 3 men either side. And when they were finished, then the next layer of men went down, and after that, then the women got fed. But there was confession first.
And the table was set, and the priest and the men all sat at the table first. And the women then got into the table when they were finished talking and all this. And of course, the women were dying for a cup of tea. So
when my father and mother were there was a big thing in their life to prepare for the station and get ready for the priest. That was very important, to have everything ready. And after that, but then that died out, and it's all over now. And my brother said, they were attending to the priest, bringing the wine and the water and ringing the bell and going round with the communion plate to everybody so that they wouldn't drop the communion. And it was a big thing.
We had no stations when I was young, but my mother got married now. There was stations in the house a couple of times. But like that, as they were saying, it was the breakfast in the morning and priest going and all that. Then like that, they died out. So in our time here, when after I got married, I said we got the station. and Maureen Degnan or somebody had it before that, and the Moffats had it. So first bought the Sacred Heart and the whole lot, the picture, and Father Prunty was around. But that was lovely. Sure, Turlough was only very young at the time. But then it turned into parties, not stations, on our road, you see.
Said, Garden Sunday, you climb Croagh Patrick if you're aiming for it, and that was a noted day for us that time. And it Tricia and myself, and Mina come halfway and she stopped, that's what I mean. But Tricia always went to the top of it. And I went once.
15th of August, and Our Lady's Day in Athenry. We go for it to enjoy ourselves for a good day, although we were supposed to be going to the religion, but we weren't too heavy on that. Yourself, walk around the well in your bare feet and say your prayers, and people went around it several times. I went round it once, that's all.
Well, St. Bridget's Well is out in Drumnadubber, which would be
That's right, yeah.
and there's still people going there for bottles of water for course.
It is, so.
Of course, St. Lazarus Well would have been the nearest one to us. That's over in Kejo. But that seemingly there was a pattern there. That pattern meant like dancing or music. And then they were saying that years back, when they were coming to it, that the bishop would have stopped it because, of course, the fights must have broken out too, and with the music, and there must have been a drop of drink, although that wasn't mentioned. And he put a stop to that, so it was just a procession. And then the well ran dry in the cemetery. So they said it sprang up. Well, I know it now, it's on the other side, on the way out to Kilronan there, that it sprung up there along the lake, Lake Melia there. So that was, called, they found the church there as well. St. Ronan, he had 6 daughters and a son. So when his wife died, they brought the son off preaching Christianity or that. So it was called St. Lazarus Well because that man's son was Lazarus.
On Lazarus holy
Well. Back to the patterns, Fionnuala. Down in Cork, they had the patterns, but I don't remember religion being involved in it. It was all dancing, and they had these tracks where they danced in and out these patterns. But I can't remember any prayers being involved.
It's considered a religious.
That was in the 50s, yes.
Would you have gone to Mass at the top of Shimore?
I went once. There was a Mass at that time, you see. Poor Father, what you call him, Ryan, I think had Mass on it. Yeah, but it was lovely. But now I think we were up for to see what was going on more than God forgive me. Well, no, that's religious. But anyway, it was lovely, and a big crowd was up at Mass.
When I was young in Drumsna, and on Sunday we had devotions on Sunday evening as well as Mass on Sunday morning, every Sunday evening, and everybody went, and there was singing, and all the hymns were in Latin, like Tantum Ergo, and all of those hymns. We didn't know them in English until later years, but everybody went religiously. The whole village would, you'd be walking up the hill with everybody else to devotions. They were at 7 o'clock.
From 12 o'clock the night before. And you'll have nothing until you have Holy Communion got.
Yeah, I learned the math answer to in Latin. We learned it in school, the Latin. In 3 boy and Tana Day Dean Quang got you to me. I can't remember it all, but that was the beginning of it in Latin. The religion was very, it was a must. Aye.
Not rosary might have been said, but no, there wasn't too many kneeling down for the rosary. It was an effort. It's just been nearly a fight. I started off here in my own house for Sunday evening. Now, there'd be a match on, I mightn't have too many, I might have a few children around. And then there could be Glenroe coming on, there could be something else. And it was torture nearly. So I got a decade out of it, I was doing well. So that was that.
My father would turn off when he'd hear the 10 o'clock news. He'd turn off the news. Once he heard the news, that was it. He went back to his chair and went down on his knees, and we all said the rosary. That was a must. The didn't go up to my bed without seeing the rosary. And that was it. And that went on all until while we were children. We'd have to be in for the rosary, or there was a row.
It was worn by my father at the Patterns dance and fair, when all the boys and pretty girls were sure to be all there. 'Twas built 100 years ago, and the devil the worse of that, for a regular lady dazzler is me Ausgalara hat.
A week's fair in Ballinasloe. We had 2 fairs in our own village every year. 28th of October and the 13th of May. And we had a country fair day the following day, no matter what day it fell in. People will be coming back for the cure. They'll be coming back after getting money from the bank. And they made a country fair, but the second day.
I certainly do remember the fairs. On the 20th of May, it was a noted fair. And of course, it started off about 6:30 or 7:00 in the morning. And no school that day for the children, everybody, and all on the street. And in they come with their asses and carts with pigs, and people walked in the calves and the cow and the cattle, whatever they were going to sell.
And we had to go to Ballinasloe, then we had to walk 9 miles. We might have 1 or 2, 3 the most. And we'd have to start off at 2 o'clock in the morning. And we had to be in town before 6, because that's the time the big all coming in. The buyers come in first. We have to sell going down outside the hospital in Ballinasloe, going down Bratton, as they used to call it. Which still go down there before we go into the green. And there were small fairs in every village. There was a fair once a year in the outside Ballinasloe now in Auckland, they call it. They used to have a fair there on the 14th of October. And it used to be packed. And our fair then, the second fair, 28th of October. And then we had Kiliber. And there was fairs all around in every village once a year.
How would you know how much to charge for the beast? You know, when you brought a cow in to sell, how would you know? How would you sort of gauge how much you were going to ask for from the dealer? How would you figure that out?
Because you had to have your sums done before you left the house.
And then there'd be a bit of haggling, wouldn't there?
I know there would be handing and spitting, shouting and roaring. They'd finish up anyway.
Yeah. It was lovely to watch them, you know.
Go away and you call him back.
Yeah, walk out.
You turn to keep going. Another lad will be calling him back. It was a crack in itself.
Oh, it was brilliant. And we used to have a fair in Ballyshannon as well. And we had a fair green at the top, but a lot of deals would have been done down along the street. And I remember the street would be covered up. There'd be cows urinating and shiting all over the street. And I remember we had a shop right in the middle of the street, a grocery shop. And one particular fair, didn't a cow get straight through the door of the shop and shat everywhere. And the place was in an awful state, broke glasses and broke all kinds of things. But that's my memory of it. And you remember when they would spit on their hand when the deal was done?
It did average a decent look penny for a 40-pound base.
Yes.
Was an average of 10 shillings.
10 shillings, yeah, that was a good penny, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good penny that time, and then you get it to be in the bargain.
Yeah.
And then when they come to pay you, when you get paid, you turn about and he wouldn't give the look penny, or he'd give 5 shillings, or maybe 7 and 6.
Yeah.
So it was scarce enough.
But that was a lot of money. 7 and 6 would buy you a lot of, get you a good night out for 7 and 6 in those days.
That was definitely, but they used everybody give a look penny after.
Yeah.
Fair. And then, of course, there was raced us, I think, in a sports day, and had that up round, I think, Minnie McManus's field was somewhere up there, I think.
Sports was always held behind her Connie Grant and Connie Fahnan, Judy Fahnan's.
I was thinking, yeah.
It was in behind that.
Well, I knew it was somewhere up there on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My father was involved in putting up the public address system, and he told me to stand up in front of this long stick with a ball on the top of it, and he says, "Sing a song, Charlie," you know. And I said, you know, and he said, "Just stand in front of that thing with the ball on the top of it and sing a song." And this is the song I sang. And if you know it, you can join in again. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket, never let it fade away. 'Cause a love may come and tap you on the shoulder some starlit night. And just in case you feel you wanna hold it, never let it fade away. Now, when I heard that song going through the PA system, I instantly fell in love with the sound of my own voice, and immediately said, "I'm going to do that." And I was 8 years of age at that time, and that was my first public appearance in front of nobody except the PA system.
I wore the communion dress the first year I ever sang at Doherty's Hall. There was tech Cayleys. I went to we used to call it the tech, the vocational school and that. So that was the first taste of the Cayleys. The older Cayleys would have taken place like in houses and that.
There was always one house, and it come from England, and they had two big accordions with them, and yet they'd leave the door open, and we used to go there, and you'd hear the rooks of Orton Moore and the Sligo Maid and the Sally Gardens, one tune after another. It was just beautiful. Oh, it was great. And,
most of the neighbours would have visited houses. And one of our neighbours used to come up and sing now. It's Bob Pagan, and he'd bring the apples as well, the eaten apples. But he was a great Cayley. There was neighbours up behind us, and when they were going to America, it was a join, it was called. So that was big nights, like to get up for something like that. That's a distant memory, but that's what was going on around you. Like, people were mixing through other all the time.
I was at one or two of those joins out in your granny's house, and you wouldn't be afraid coming home from the join because it would be daylight. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. There'd be nothing to be scared of. The birds would be singing. I think they used to join together and get a half barrel, I think it was a half barrel it was called, of porter. But everybody danced and sang. And there was P. Banagher used to play the fiddle out there, and your great granduncle John, and then Pat Stenson, who would be Enda Stenson's father, he used to come over. And your granny used to do the pot stick dance. It was something like the twig dance, only she did it with the pot stick. You know, the thing you pounded the potatoes with.
I used to sing. Could I sing?
Of course you can
Far
sing.
away from the land of the shamrock country, in search of a living as exiles we roam. But I couldn't play like my mother. She played it out. She'd take the accordion and she'd play for the dancers in she played for the dancers when they'd be dancing a half set. They'd chain off and hammer out the three. There were three in every corner, and then they change and swing. So that was it. And Katie had played them, and they shout at Katie, "Give it to us now, Katie."
It was great storytelling as well. You know, I remember, if you could be in somebody's house till 2 a.m, and somebody would have been telling a ghost story, or
ghost stories,
and you'd be scared shitless going home. You'd be things jumping out of every tree, on the way home. funny, I remember in Drummond being it was called a dragging, I think, where the bride and groom came back, and it was in Drummond. I remember being at it in Drummond. I think Tony McGowan and myself, we were playing it, and you know, it was a big celebration of them coming back from their honeymoon. It was called a dragging, I think it was called. I'm not too sure.
And the strawmen.
No, that's the mummers now. She's
Yeah, the mummers, yeah. They dressed up in mummers, dressed in straw. When they come home, the night they come home, they'll be all there. They'll come unexpected. You go and do the same thing in the mummers, but on the wedding, they used to dress up in straw suits, like thatch, all around you. They were called the strawmen.
Straw boys.
And the way dads to sit there and to fall off the ground and everything, the straw.
Well, it was mostly the mummers. They were called the mummers because as a kid, these mysterious people had come in all dressed up, you know, at Christmas time. And you were kind of scared of them. I remember actually as a child being scared of them.
We had the Mayflower beside us. McGovern's were the drying company. So they would supply the minerals, because it's very important that if you did meet anybody nice or that, they were going to ask you for a mineral. So that meant a lot. You went up into the tea room or the mineral bar. So you're aware that if that happened.
We went to, I remember going in my early days, about 16 or 17 or so, I had, Billy Taylor was a cousin of mine, and he had a sister doing dressmaking in Mohol, not too far down from the guards' barracks. And all the girls used to meet there. And we'd go to this Canadunhu. I remember being in it around Christmas time, and there was a huge big crowd in it. And I remember standing up on stools around the side. It was a big long stool around the side, and nearly people getting up on the stool to see what was going on down the rest of the hall. The Canadunhu.
I started my dancing up at Cox's Cross, open air dancing, and men, women and children went there. And Phyllis O'Dowd, she was Phyllis Lancy previously, she had a band in Carrick, she lived up there, and she would play the accordion, and occasionally she was joined by a fiddle player. But men, women and children danced there, and sometimes there'd be a bonfire, even though it was a bonfire night. There was no charge, it was just dancing, and it was very painful on the backs of the legs because it was on the road, and the road wasn't very even or smooth. And then I graduated to Jamestown. There was a hall in Jamestown, which was a mile away.
Then we came to Ridden's in Ruski, and there was a dance hall in Tarmanbarry as well that we went to up to Ruski and further on to Tarmanbarry. I wasn't in that very often.
How did you get to those dances? Did somebody drive you to? Was there a taxi?
I had a car. I was teaching, and when I started in the beginning, I had to travel 17 miles to school.
Right.
And my father had a van, so I had the use of the van an awful lot of time. So I got the van on Sunday night as well.
And would you bring 5 or 6 people with you?
Maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah. You'd all go together. Yeah. What would happen if one of them got a man then on the night? Would you have to wait till she was finished courting?
I don't even remember. None of them struck me. There was only one man that ever took my fancy. Rillans usually had 5 or 6 big bands that he changed roundabout on his 6th. They were in Ruski one day, and they were in Roscommon the next day, and he had them. He had the same bands. He nearly kept control of them.
That's the Telstar show band, Carrick and Shannon, Phone Kilmore 6. And on the corner there is Sean O'Dowd, who's still singing, and Michael O'Halloran from Carrick and Shannon. But all of the bands used to give out these cards. There's the Royal. Can you see that?
Yeah. That's a very early picture, yeah.
Tom the corner who got killed out at Drumsna. That's the Capitol. The date of that one in the cloud is 25th of February 1960.
Yeah.
And it was 4 shillings to get in.
How much?
4 shillings.
God save it, cheap. Yeah, well, the first dances I would have gone to in Ballyshannon, there were 2 women, a piano player, Maureen, and her sister Lily. She's played the accordion. and they would play all the old style stuff, and we were rock and rollers at this stage, you know. But these were the only people available, and I think Mick Woods' band used to sing this as well. It's from a movie called Paleface. East is east and west is west, and the wrong road I have chosen. I love her in buckskin, slit standing in homespun, but I go through long and stronger river, friends don't go. My Fort Mountain cactus hurts my toes. Take me where the girls are, where those silks and the satins and the linen that shows. You'll find in buttons and bows. You know, the radio ruled in our house, because when I was growing up, that's where my first exposure to music would have been. Not so much on Radio Earn, because they literally didn't have much other than classical music on Radio Earn. But we used to listen to a program called Radio Luxembourg, which was a pop music program. This would have been late 50s, early 60s.
No, in the cinema, as regards the cinema, that was the Roxy cinema that was in Drumshanbo. But I never remember that when you had Laurel and Hardy.
The cinema was the big one. We had a cinema in the town, and there would be a change of film 3 times a week. And so the film would be on for 2 nights, and then there'd be another one on for maybe 3 nights, and another one on for 2 nights. And people used to go to them every night of the week. It was one and a penny in, which is something like 5 cents in today's money, into the pictures. Usually what happened in any area, one person would get a television, and everybody would go to their house to watch the television. And in those days, this was before RTE even existed. We used to have the BBC, and it was very snowy. You could just about make it out, you know.
All those people who played on a Monday night, Jack McGrath, all of those people, they were all characters.
Such a crowd. There was Jim the Black and the wife, and there was Sonny Moffat, and there was Nicola Moore and Hilary Kangley and Noel McLaughlin, all of these. We used to drink down there as well. So we'd start our practice at around 11 o'clock at night. But Tony Ward came in and he put a bit of structure on it, and he set the programme, what was to be done and who was to do what next. And it was called the Tinker's Wedding.
Packy Dagenham was one of the first people I met when I came here. Packy always had a Coltis medal. It was a gold medal, and he always wore it in the lapel of his jacket. He was always immaculately dressed. Packy was always had a shirt and tie and the whole lot. And somebody spotted the Butcher McLaughlin. He was a flute player as well, and he had somebody said they saw the Butcher McLaughlin with a medal in his lapel. And somebody said to Packy one day, you know, the Butcher McLaughlin has a medal just like yours. He says, and Packy says, he bought it. It was a famous man. It was an uncle of Tommy Guihan's. His name was Packy Layden. And Packy Layden used to do what's known as a sing-horn. You know, he was a shannos dancer. And anytime we'd be playing the McCrans now, he'd get up and do, and he would just do it. And he always lilted. He lilted his own music. He lilted the tune and danced to it himself, you know. So I'd love that sort of thing to start happening. You know, we were so lucky to, and we're rich in heritage and in talent.
It's that little place they call Drumshanbo Town.
I stood enchanted by the sea of grandeur and delight. And I headed on for Carricktown before the dark of night. I passed Sheemore, that fairy hill, where the flowers wildly grow, and I saw the grave of Finn McCool, where the Shannon waters flow.
Should be all different types of cures for the same thing, you know, different people would have different cures. See, Annie McGuinness has it now, because May Newton's mother gave it to her for the bleed, but seemingly she wrote it down. She brought the page and the pencil up to the room and wrote it down. But the one I had now that the man gave me, it's a prayer as well, and it's a Monday and Thursday before sunrise and sunset, I guess when you say it.
There was a woman near us at home, she was Mrs. Gaffney. And I know that the boys often got ringworm, And next time was Daddy Lord Mercer always went up to this Mrs. Gaffney of Gold, and she cured it. Now I think it was a prayer.
She had Lysol and iodine mixed. I got itch, and I had to go. I was all on a rash, and I had to go to this woman, and she had Lysol and iodine mixed, and she had it in a little bottle and a quill, for putting it on, and she just rubbed it up and down, and I didn't hear any prayers or anything. She just rubbed it with the iodine and Lysol, and that was it. So it cured it after that. I can't tell you any more about it now.
Another cure for whooping cough. You put the winkers of an ass around the neck of the child, and you'd lead him around the pigsty, and 3 times you had to go, and you'd say, Mokna, Mokna, Togna, Lekna, and then when you do that 3 times, the swelling would disappear after that. Don't know how true that is or not true. And
I have a cure for a wart. Rub a rasher on a snail and then rub it on the wart.
A rasher?
Yeah, but we used to hear a black snail.
No, I don't. I heard somebody saying that. No, I never tried it out.
And a cure for pneumonia was ferret's milk. Now, how you'd get milk out of a ferret, I'm not sure either.
A cure for ringworm, where the 3 waters meet. About 7 miles away from me, from three different directions.
Oh.
One was out of the bog, and 2 more was upland. Well, there could be the bog would be along the whole way anyway. This man was in Galway hospital for ages and couldn't be cured. And he went up. He was talking to this man, a neighbour of mine, dead and buried now. And he told him to come up. And he brought him up and brought up a bucket. And he had a bathtub up in the bog, the border of the bog and the upland, and washed himself with it. And it cured him completely. And the doctors in Galway failed.
Then the cure of the shingles for us now, when my mother had them, we went up to Strokestown, and there was a man there, and his mother passed it to him. So we had to go out to a well and go down and take some water out of the well, and take a drink of that, and don't speak until you got back, like to his house. So within 2 days, they were dead.
Something here, if a child has a blocked nose, now something more than just a blocked nose, if the mother put a spit on her finger and put it and rubbed it on the bridge of the child's nose, it would clear it. No.
Yes, my sister got burned badly one time, scalded, and of course the skin fell off her legs. Philomena it was, and next thing was a new Daddy, of course, again a cure, and to somebody down at Charlton's Crossroads, as you go to some chamber, somebody was there, so they made the cure of the burn. It was a kind of a liquid or an ointment, I'm not sure. But I know it took a long time, but it cured it.
And then was it the burns? Some man up around Ruski, seemingly you'd lick the burn and that cured it.
You'd have to be the 7th son of the 7th son before you'd have a cure, or vice versa.
From the 2 people of the same name, they were married. But the 2 of them drank and left over. We'd have a bottle and put it into it and bring it home and give it to the child for the whooping cough. But it cleared the whooping cough.
And there was a lady, Mrs. Mulvey, from out your mum, out Lister Mafarna direction. And if you had a weak heart, she used to put oatmeal in a cup. And she would pray and pray and pray. And as according as the oatmeal was going down, seemingly the heart was getting better. And people went to her from all over the place. She'd be Leo Mulvey's mother.
Leo's mother, yeah.
She had that particular cure. And
a mag for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a letter, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret that can never be told.
But we used to put the child of prague out before the wedding, so that the weather would be good.
And if you were moving into a house or, you know, leaving hospital or something, you wouldn't go of a Saturday.
No.
Like if you move in, Saturday splitting is a short sitting, you know, and you'd have it of a Friday maybe. That kind of thing.
If your cows were milked, me and Warren used to watch them years ago. And that no one milked them but yourself. And if they milked them, they'll bring the butter and me and Warren. I haven't heard them saying that.
And every May morning I get up to this day and I wash my face in the May morning dew. Like,
And look at it works.
That's right. Good looking. We should all try it.
we took these things very seriously.
And the wild flowers are springing in the May morning dew.
You'll always do that. Colleen keeps me supplied with mayflowers and crosses.
I do. I've
St.
been doing
Bridget's
it
cross.
years. I've been doing it, I'd say, for 70 years. On
You certainly are, yeah.
Yeah, and
Always. Yeah.
I live here. The red-haired woman, I heard all of that because my mother had red hair, and as I said, she wasn't allowed on the road at all. If there was a fair of any description, she wasn't let out. She had to stay in the house.
It's the first visitor to the house. If it is a man, is great, but if it's a woman, it's bad. And Lord, if it's a red-haired woman, it's shocking.
When you finish the turf, some people now, we didn't do it, but some people would leave a footing or so on the bog, and all their turf was home. So the idea there was that when they go back the next year, they'd have a fire to boil eggs, because you used to bring the eggs to the bog years ago to boil, to eat, and the canister and that, so there'd be a fire that they could make and to boil the eggs. That was the reason for that. So
and also widows could curse you. If you got a widow's curse, you were done for altogether. If she put her mind to it.
Then there's funerals in some places when they're leaving the house, the corpse leaving the house, they have 2 chairs outside. That happens in some places. And the coffin is put in the 2 chairs. So they're turned upside down after the coffin goes out, and they're not touched then until the removal is over. Like why exactly that's done, I don't really know, but it's tradition in some places.
And there was another thing, when somebody died years ago, if it was your parent, you didn't go out for a whole year. You never went anywhere.
Right, yeah.
And the fellas had a little diamond, a black diamond, sewn onto their sleeve, and they
weren't fully in black.
And nobody would go from that. You would stay in.
And there was
When she cried, it was a sign somebody was going to sleep in that, going to die in that house tonight, or
God.
pretty soon.
And my mother had another daft thing. If you wash a blanket in May, you'll wash somebody away. And I said, that's crap. And I washed the blanket anyway. I said, I don't believe in that nonsense. And the next day, her cousin over at Mull died. No, she said, you washed Mary Jane away.
Gone.
Oh,
no.
But like spirits or ghosts, whatever you call them, seemingly would come back. Because I worked with a girl, and the people who were in the house that had died seemingly came back and be at the end of the bed. And we get all saying, oh, would you not? Oh, sure you wouldn't stay in the room if that happened. But she said, well, they just go away again, that they were restless.
There was a lot more ghosts before the electricity came. Once the electricity came,
it showed them all up then.
And at Halloween, we used to have, a bunch of us would get together in the village, and we'd have 4 saucers, and we'd have water in one, ashes in another, a ring in another, and a rosary beads. And then you'd be blindfolded, and you'd be spun around, and they'd be shifted, and then whatever you put your hand in, nobody wanted to get the ashes because you were going to be dead first. The water was, you'd be crossing the water to another land. The ring was, of course, you'd be married. And the rosary beads, you were either going to be a nun or a priest.
And the ring in the barn brack, of course, was if you got the ring in the barn brack, you were the first to get married in the house.
The thing we did was we took a mouthful of water, and we went up and down the village street, and we listened at doors, and we had to spit the water in the letterbox, and the first name you heard was the name of the man or woman you were going to marry. Crazy stuff.
Well, we had an apple hanging out the ceiling, or a basin of water with an apple, and try and, with your hands behind your back, try and lift the apple out of the basin of water. And
when my father used to go out at the Halloween night after 12 o'clock to see where the wind settled. And if it settled in the north on Halloween night, we're going to have a very cold, frosty winter. And if it settled in the west, we're going to have a wet spring and a wet summer for saving hay and all this kind of thing.
And if you saw a new moon, you would have to say, I see the moon and the moon sees me. God bless the moon and God bless me. And then you were lucky for the rest of the year.
And do you remember, what do you call it, the ashen leaf before the oak? She would bring a sort over. And then the oak and leaf before the ash, she would bring a third splash.
if the ash is out before the oak, there's sure to be a oak.
Yeah.
Did you ever brought in those white thorns into the house? I remember picking a bunch of.
Oh yeah, that was
my
fatal.
mother, she nearly lost her life. Don't ever bring them into the house again.
Yeah.
Did you ever have your tea leaves read?
No, I hadn't.
Oh yes, you had.
Did you read it for me?
My mother read them for you.
No.
What did she tell me?
She told you you'd meet a lovely man and you'd marry him and you'd be very happy. All the rest.
And didn't it prove true?
Or if your ears were itchy, somebody was talking about you.
Yeah,
Or your face was red.
your right eye was itchy, you were going to laugh. And your left eye was itchy, you were going to cry.
That's right. Yeah.
But people really believe those things. And I still believe a lot of that stuff. Like somebody coming in on New Year's Day, and I wouldn't dream of looking at the pavement, walking on cracks and under ladders and all of that kind of thing. And
There are singers that we love as we sing our lives away, and though we all fall silent in the end, they will sing with us forever. They'll be singing every day when we sing the songs they sang. For the song goes on in the songs we sing, and when one song ends, then another song begins. So the singers who are gone will be singing once again when we sing the songs they sang. All you who love scenery with me, come along to the grand county drum of story and song. We'd go to Drumshanbo for sport and folklore, and we'd view Slieve and lovely Sheemore, that hill where the luminous cross stands so clear, to recall to our memory the Marian year. I'll take you to Fena, and there you will find that grand ancient abbey St. Keelan designed, where our forefathers prayed that our flag would unfurl, and our sons preached the gospel all over the world.
One years ago, with the custom was, you see, there was matchmaking, and they might get the young one off with this older fella or whatever, and he'd land on the frontage, that was great. So sure, I think that's one, the older man. My parents, they abandoned me, and on them I'd a frown. But they wed me to an older man for all his money and ground. But they wed me to a glamour boy without any money at all. Sure, he'd take me in his arms and he'd roll me from the wall. Well, it wasn't long after the honeymoon till the glamour began to jar. He killed me little lapdog and he broke me jaunting card. Me teapot and me china dells, sure he smashed and broke them all. Oh, God knows I suffered sorely from me rolling from the wall.
Good woman, good woman.
Well done, Anne.
My thoughts today, though I'm far away, dwell on Tyrconnell shore. The salty air and the canyons fair around lovely green Glenore.
Near Oranmore in the county Galway, one pleasant evening in the month of May, she wore no jewel or no costly diamond, no pen nor powder, no, none at all. But she wore a bonnet with a ribbon on it, and around her shoulder was a gold. And putting them together.
Each county had their own shawl.
Oh,
They had a different shawl and a different knitting and different stitches in it, because I know the one where my father was from in Skibbereen, they had a kind of a hood on theirs with a cowl and a special kind of knit in it.
would you like to be grown up now in this time? Like, would you like to be a teenager in this time?
I don't think I would. I prefer my own time. I think, I don't know how I'd cope with all the stuff that they have to cope with now. I really don't. It wasn't when I felt my teenage years were very happy and carefree, and there was no such thing as drugs or anything like that. I think it's very hard on them compared to, now they might think I'm nuts and that there's nothing to be bothered about, but that's my feeling.
As well, would you like to be grown up, you know, as a teenager, a young one in this time?
Oh God, no. Oh no. What I noticed, the technology, you see, they're all so smart and so savvy now with all this phone business and their tablets, but when you look at the most of those children now, they haven't a clue how to communicate. But ask them to do something ordinary, like mow the lawn or maybe change a light bulb, or they wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about. They'd be standing looking at you. And really, I think it's a pity.
Everybody was sent out. Everybody had to do weeding kind of thing. And
No harm. No harm. Yeah.
No harm. But the Lord blesses asked them if you asked some of the children to do that now, you'd probably be up in court over it. So
that you hear this cyber bully. And I say, can they not turn off the phones? Oh no, you had to stay connected, seemingly. So that to me is I feel sorry for them. And then you have all these icons, or what do you call them, these models and that, and they're going and having blogs and this, that. So they're all wanting to be like those, and they think that's the way you look every day. After that, now I'm glad I grew up and I did when we played and we were through the fields and we mixed with our friends at school, and we went to the dances and you met people. It was so much easier and more enjoyable, and everything you got then that you appreciated so much.
It's great now. It's great for the youngsters now. They have everything. They have new houses brought in, and they have cars, and they have everywhere. There's all kinds of entertainment for them. So that time we never got out. There was nowhere to go anyway. It was during the war years, and there was no petrol, there was no paraffin, there was nothing. So we just had to stay home and go to bed. Then things, that was the way. That was in them days. It was in the 30s.
So the farming, nearly know, like, you know, with the horses ploughing and the tractor and the cutting dough to the side. And then the machine came, the raping binder came, and the harvester came, the thrasher. All them is gone now. Rather combined is taking over the whole lot. Everything was done that before that, all behind.
when we were growing up, in my time anyway, you see, you farmed it, you put in oats and barley and potato crop. And the potato crop that year, when they were dug out and all, that was ploughed and made an oats full next year. And the oats was sown there, and the sheaves with wheat and all. And next year, the thrasher was gotten in the fall of the year for to thresh the oats. My father, Dr. Messer, bringing the bags of oat meal up to Atchison Mill.
Oh, yeah.
Out, and they had a mill there, and bring home so many bags of oats. But now it's all completely changed. It's all for grazing cattle now, land.
And my mother said had poultry, had, I think it was leghorn hens kind of thing. They were very thin. They were no good for killing, but they were great for laying eggs. And they were specially bred kind of thing. And she sent eggs. She sold eggs to the hatchery in Kildare. And eggs were, I suppose, you could get a dozen of ordinary eggs at that time for a pound. I forget, they were about 10 times dearer going to the hatchery at any rate than what you bought in the shop. They were hatched and brought out chickens. She had an incubator. There was no electricity at that time. She had an incubator and it was worked with paraffin oil to keep the eggs. She had an incubator. There was a big tray in it and it held about 100 eggs. And the heat from the lamp with paraffin oil heated the eggs and until they hatched out 3 weeks later, kind of thing.
But you know, years ago, if somebody in the village anyway, most of them were farmers as well as a few shopkeepers and publicans and that. But we say, for instance, if somebody killed a pig, everybody got a bit of the grishkins and a bit of the blood and the black pudding and everything. You shared, you know. Yeah, or if there was thrashing, the mehel would be there. They'd all be there.
Yeah.
And what you got was, you got your tea afterwards, and that was a treat.
Yeah. But people didn't expect anything else because they probably helped the next person. So
Yeah.
that
they helped other out. There was no wages or there was no payment, but that they helped other out.
Yeah.
That was the way it was.
You know.
Yeah. And there was no like community centres or anything then, but the community was the community. There was Cayley's and they went to visit one another and this house and that house. The doors were open, but you have to get an invite nearly now to go to a house. So like it's totally different. So there you go to your community centre somewhere to meet people.
Yes.
Elsie, remember the first time we went to America that the plane had to circle for an hour over New York? We said 44 rosaries, the two of us.
Oh my God, wasn't that an awful experience?
We thought
Did we worry? No, as long as you were getting to New York, that was the main thing.
Opportunities. If you didn't stay in Ireland, for example, would you have had more opportunities?
Definitely in those times, not anymore. I mean, the opportunities are the same for everybody. But those that left, I mean, it was like any land was a land of milk and honey because they got work and they got money and, you know, they were able to get on. Whereas here with the farm, and there might be 7 or 8 children on the farm and none of them getting anywhere until they got married. So the opportunities definitely were for the ones that went away.
Yeah, well, indeed, when something bad happens, everybody comes together. But it's too bad we don't come together more often for you know, nicer things that's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. So here's to you and our time together. I will share with you a parting glass, and I'll bid adieu with some smiles and laughter. Our time apart will be short and pass. We've talked of dreams and of new tomorrows, of yesterday and its dark despair. We've had our share of love and sorrow, and now we part as friends who care. So here's to you and our time together. I will share with you a parting glass, and I'll bid adieu with some smiles and laughter. Our time apart will be short and past.